Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Vegan World 2026 Moonshot podcast. This is episode 39. And today we are joined by Joya Wesley, author, who just published her book, The Easy Breezy Whole Foodie. And I know Joya has been here before. So I think this is her second appearance, but welcome, Joya.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Rao. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
I am great. Very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you as always. And
Yay.
so I'm going to start by asking you, how did you get into this in the first place?
Um, I was struggling with my weight. That was the beginning of it. I've
Mhm.
been struggling with my weight my whole life. So it was by stumbling onto the whole foods plant-based way of living as a way to drop weight that started it all.
Okay. So when did that happen?
December 2019. I started actually on December 31st, 2019. I
Wow.
had, like I said, this had been a lifelong struggle, 40 years of
Mhm.
diets and dieting and weight watching. I was a weight watcher literally for 40 years from the time I was 11 years old.
Mhm.
And um, at the end of 2019, I was really off track. So I was usually in the struggle and struggling to stay on track, stay in a straight and narrow that I had defined for myself based on whatever diet guru I was following. So
Mhm.
I was off of all tracks. I was off the rails, totally off the rails, and just eating everything, eating all kinds of crazy things that I hadn't eaten in decades. So I knew I had to get back on track. And I remembered scrolling back in my mind through the 38 different diets I had done
Mhm.
that the rice diet, which was a diet developed by Dr. Walter Kempner at Duke University in the 40s and 50s,
Mhm.
would reset my taste buds and it would help me get back in the struggle. I thought I would do that for a while. It was basically rice and fruit and vegetables,
Mhm.
no salt, no sugar, no oil. I thought I would do that for a while, get my taste buds back in line
Mhm.
in a reasonable range,
Right.
and then get back in the struggle, get back into doing what I had been doing, which was kind of dabbling in the standard American diet, which
Mhm.
is abbreviated as SAD
Right.
because it is sad because it's so unhealthy for individuals and for the planet. So while I was doing this, thinking it would be very short term, I discovered a YouTuber by the name of Plantiful Kiki. She's
Mhm.
a very lovely, willowy young woman, and she had pictures of herself when she was not so willowy. She was much heftier.
Mhm.
And she described how she had dropped weight following Dr. John McDougall's starch
Wow.
solution diet. So
Right.
she recommended the book, The Starch Solution. So I read that. And she also recommended the book, The Pleasure Trap by Dr.
Okay.
Doug Lisle and Dr. Alan Goldhammer of the True North Health Center. And yeah, I know you know about them.
Right.
So I read both of those books and discovered that this didn't have to be a temporary thing. It could be a lifestyle. And
Right.
not only would it be good for me, it would be good for the planet. And it changed everything. And it was really, really miraculous. The last 60 pounds I was carrying melted away magically. They were just gone.
Right.
And I felt so much better. I didn't have the brain fog that I had struggled with for so long. I didn't have the the fight. It was always a
Mhm.
fight to not eat the things I thought I shouldn't eat. But
Right.
when I started the Whole Foods plan, the fight just ended. It's not a fight anymore. It was magic. It was like entering an alternate reality. So I discovered all these other people who had been doing it for years. Dr. McDougall has been doing it for decades himself. And
Right.
he refers to Dr. Kempner, the Rice Diet founder, as the father of lifestyle medicine. So he
Mhm.
was the very first doctor talking about how food could change health
Right.
outcomes.
Well,
Yeah.
he's the very first doctor in the West.
In the West. Okay. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that correction.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
because there was a doctor, natural health doctor in India who had
Uh
written
huh.
about this in 1933. So it was before the
Okay.
Kempner. Yeah.
Okay. That's great to know. That is great to know. I'm really proud and excited to be part of such a long legacy of people living this lifestyle and
Right.
living this philosophy.
Now, what really struck me about your story and the book is that you were able to overcome the addictive nature of the foods that we are given. You know, the
Yes.
standard American diet is full of addictive foods.
Right. Right.
So tell us
Yes.
how you got through that. How did you overcome the
Yeah.
addiction?
The the plants did it. Basically, the short
Mm,
answer is that when you stop eating those, when you abstain completely,
hmm.
you lose that addiction. And that was explained to me in the pleasure trap in a
Okay.
way that I never really understood. I had no idea how addictive. I knew it was addictive and I knew I was addicted because I
Right.
had been so overweight. My top weight was 329 pounds.
Mm,
So I knew I had more of an addiction than a lot of people. And
mm,
my father has struggled with addiction in the past, with not just food addiction, but also
mhm,
addiction to drugs. And so I knew that was in my family and in my genes, but I didn't
mhm.
understand how how the food addiction worked.
Right.
And the pleasure trap explains that in a way that's really easy to grasp. So
Hmm.
what they say is how rich foods, how our biology evolved to prefer the richest, sweetest, most highly caloric foods we could find because we were in an environment in our early the days of our early ancestors when we didn't have food abundantly.
Hmm.
So the more rich food we could find, the more likely we were to get our genes into the next generation.
Right.
So we developed systems that made our brain chemistry react
Hmm.
to rich foods. So the dopamine response is similar to the response that happens when you use cocaine or alcohol. It's a reward, a pleasure reward in your brain. So
Hmm.
the same thing happens when you eat rich foods. So that's our biology, and that's just the way it is.
Right.
But times have changed. So we're not
Right.
running around trying to find berries and to a lesser extent animals. I heard a funny thing from Victoria Moran, the Main Street vegan. She talks about how we were far more foragers, far more vegan than
Right.
people would have the paleo people would have us believe. She said, have you ever
Right.
tried to can you imagine trying to take down a mastodon with a sharp stick? So that was not happening frequently. So stumbling upon berries was much more
Right.
likely to happen. So so that dopamine response is there. So now the situation is so much different.
Right.
Not only do we have an abundance of food, we have big food, the evil um,
Corporations, right?
corporations, yeah, who have food scientists who have studied ways to make the processed foods that they create even more addictive. So
Right.
they're taking our biology and using it against us.
Right.
So it's a whole new world, literally. So it's not our fault that we gain weight, that we can't stop eating the ice cream and the other processed foods. It's because we're designed to seek that out because our bodies think that we're
Right.
going to die if we don't. but we're not going to die. In fact, we're going to die if we keep eating these processed foods because
Right.
they are the cause of so many lifestyle diseases, from diabetes to heart disease to autoimmune diseases to arthritis to all kinds of ailments that strike us and plague us in our modern society.
Right. See, I can understand corporations trying to do that because their job is to maximize their profits, maximize their revenues. So they've been told just grow, right?
Right,
It's your job to grow. So they're going to try and hook us into their products. Okay.
right.
Why do you think the government is on their side and not looking after us?
That is an interesting thing that I have studied a lot since I've been on this
Hmm.
journey. And a lot of people have studied it a lot. And I've been studying those people who've been studying it, including
Right.
the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Hmm.
Talks about how the USDA has a strangely split mandate. Their the United States Department of Agriculture, which provides the food pyramids and gives recommendations for eating for
Hmm.
Americans, but it's also mandated to promote agricultural products, which include meat and dairy.
Hmm.
So, although we know that meat and dairy are not healthy for human bodies, they're trying to promote it. So that 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 split um, intention is
Hmm.
there. So they're promoting meat and dairy, despite the fact that they know. I take it they know. I hate to accuse
Right.
people of being completely disingenuous, but they're supposed to promote. Their mandate is to grow the agriculture sector of
Hmm.
the economy. So promoting meat and dairy is the way they do that.
Right. So it's this fundamental push to grow the economy that's driving both corporations and government to basically colonize our bodies, right? That's what, isn't that
Right.
what they're doing?
They are, and they're sacrificing us. They're basically saying you that we don't count. Basically, they don't
Right.
love us. That's
Right.
what I say in the book. The big food and big pharma don't love us. They just want to profit from us. And
Right.
colonizing is the perfect way to put that. I love how you put that.
Right. So I mean, it's a beautiful book. It's a very
Thank
short book. I
you.
got it. So
I'm
thank you so much.
glad. Thank you. Thank you for ordering it. Yes.
And thank you for endorsing it in the front.
You're
So,
welcome. Yeah, I wanted it to be little and light. I'm a
right.
minimalist, so books I know are heavy, and I travel, and people who travel can't lug around books with them, but this can fit in their gig bag and their travel bag,
Right.
and they can slip it to their friends and relatives, and it has boiled down the details of a stack of books, Dr. McDougall's book, the Starch Solution, the Pleasure
Right.
Trap, and many, many other books, all in a little handy guide.
I know it's beautiful. I mean, it's you've done a
Thank
great job
you.
of summarizing everything.
Thank you.
These simple 7 steps. It's like I
Yes.
was going to get into that now. Let's talk about
Okay.
the book. And
Yeah.
so let's start
Okay.
with your invitation. How
Okay.
you're inviting people, right, in the beginning.
Yes, that this is like I said, I felt like I had slipped into an alternate reality. It was like
Mhm.
someone opened a little secret passageway and said, "Psst, come this way." And you can be in this other world where you can't even imagine
Right.
life now. And I was so in love with butter. I said my ears were too clogged with butter to hear these messages because I had heard Dr. Kempner's message decades ago. I can't even remember, but it never seemed to me to be something that could be a lifestyle. It was always a temporary thing in my
Right.
mind. So when I found that this was possible, I wanted to invite everyone I knew to come
Hmm.
join me, come jump down this secret passageway with me. So I invite you to do it. I invite readers to do it. My brothers and sisters who are struggling like I was struggling. But
Mhm.
I also recognize that they may be not able to hear like I was not able to hear for so long. And the only reason I was able to hear Dr. McDougall's message and even be exposed to the idea of the pleasure trap is because I was already doing the rice diet. So I had already
Mhm.
moved my vibration to the point where I could hear these messages, because before I was so mired in the standard American diet that I couldn't even hear. And I recognize that, and I don't know if other people realize how messages don't even get absorbed into you when you're not at a point where you can hear them, at a place where you can hear
Right.
them. So that's the invitation, and I tell people that if they're not ready to hear it, it's gonna just sound like gibberish to them. So they should
Right.
just put the book down and forget about it. Give it to somebody else, somebody they think might be sick or desperate enough that they can hear it. Because you have to. Dr. Goldhammer talks about that. People can't fathom the idea of water fasting. He promotes water fasting as a
Right.
way, as a secret, a different kind of secret passageway.
Right.
And people can't hear it until they're sick and desperate enough. And I
Yeah.
was sick and desperate enough. So yeah, that's the invitation. And
Yeah.
then the steps.
Yeah. And then, of course, the steps. But,
Yeah.
just before we get to the steps, I wanted to tell you
Mm-hmm.
that um, I've come to whole food plant based in a different way.
Uh-huh.
I
Okay.
started off with I went vegan for the environment back in
Yeah.
2008. And lately, over the past year, I've been sort of transitioning to more and more whole foods. And now I'm pretty much completely whole foods, but I still have some of the what you call crap,
Okay.
the crap
Yes.
vegan food,
Yes,
calorie rich
yes.
and
And
processed vegan,
process. Yes.
still there in my pantry. And sometimes I get good tempted to go eat one. And when I
Uh-huh.
eat it, I get sick. I feel so bad.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Michael Greger coined that term crap, calorie rich and processed. And I think that really just sums it up.
Right.
So another guru of mine now, my not sad guru, Chef AJ, and she says
Uh,
that if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So that's why one of my steps is clearing all the crap
yeah.
out of your house, so it's not in there. Because if it's in there, you're gonna eat it.
I know,
Even
but I live with a family, right? So I mean, we're all
yeah,
vegan, but that is
right,
that, yeah.
right,
So,
yeah.
but but the interesting thing is now I realize that it is bad, and I've realized that I must have been feeling that when I was eating it before, but it was just this lower level of suffering
Uh huh.
that I
Uh
was
huh.
putting up with.
Right. And a
Yeah.
lower level of awareness. When you're not
Right,
aware of it, you
right,
don't you
yeah,
don't realize that. Why am why is my brain so foggy? Oh, it's because I'm eating crap. You just think your brain is foggy because you're old, or because you're that's
right.
the way it is. That's the way life is. And so much of what we think is just the way it is. I found in this alternate reality that it doesn't have to be that way, and it's so miraculous, and I'm so grateful.
Okay. So that brings me to the next chapter.
Okay.
7 steps to opt out of
Okay.
sad.
Yes.
So how did you
Yes.
formulate the 7 steps?
It really was like a inspiration, just
Mm,
a download. I have to give credit to the other world that it just came upon me. I was in a park one day when the idea for the book first came to me, because I was
mm,
thinking I would like to write a book, because I had struggled so long, and I have this
mm,
experience, and I've been there and done that, basically
mm,
all of that, all kinds of ways, the paleo, the keto, the all the different really difficult ways people use to try to lose weight. And it struck me that this was so much easier and
mm,
so much simpler. So when I read The Pleasure Trap, and I understood that the abstinence process was a process, and it was a period of time where your taste buds were not going to be happy. They're just not going to
Right.
be happy. So it's really no point to be stressing yourself out in the kitchen making fancy recipes, because they're not going to taste good to you as long as your addiction is still alive.
Right.
But it's a temporary period, and as soon as the addiction dies within 12 weeks, you've killed it. When you've just eaten whole foods, that addiction is broken, and
Mm.
then you can start looking for ways to please yourself with food again, because in the
Right.
beginning it's not going to be pleasurable. The steamed broccoli cannot hold a candle to any cookie that might have been in your pantry, or any
Right.
piece of cheese, or and any potato. So the potatoes I found were very satisfying. So
Right.
even though they didn't necessarily taste good with no butter or cream or cheese or anything on them, they were still satisfying. So, and there's another guru I like to follow is Andrew Taylor, an Australian guy who started the Spud Fit, and he ate just potatoes for a year. And also, other people have done it in his wake, including Penn from the Magic Duo, Penn and Teller.
Uh-huh.
Just potatoes, and you can survive on just potatoes, and
Right.
you won't be hungry. You might not be happy,
Right.
but you won't be hungry, and that addiction is gone faster.
Mm.
He talks about the fatigue that comes from using your willpower to make decisions. Am I going to have some crap, or am I going to have a potato? When if you've
Right.
decided that you're only going to have potatoes, you don't have to make decisions. So you don't have that fatigue, and your energy is freed up to live life in different ways. And that's the other thing, is that there's so much life that doesn't involve food. And you really
Right.
don't realize that when you're still stuck in the addiction.
Right.
Yeah, so I just stripped it way down and just would eat some steamed vegetables. I was in the park the day that the idea came to me. I had a little bag of steamed okra, lightly steamed okra, which has a
Mhm.
little crunch to it when you eat it. It was delicious in its
Mhm.
own not sad way.
Right.
And I had a baked potato that I was eating like an apple, and I had an apple. So
Mhm.
this was a very satisfying meal. I was fed, it was simple, it was easy. And I also listened to a bunch of interviews with other people who had gone into this
Mhm.
Whole Foods lifestyle, and hearing their stories and the ways they did it was very informative. And I wanted to share those in the book. So I boiled down some of that into the book too. So there's this one guy who was a bachelor who didn't cook. And I think it was Dr. Furman he got a recipe from that just had frozen vegetables. It was a
Mm.
bean soup with frozen vegetables. So he didn't have to cut, he didn't have to work in the kitchen. He just dumped bags of frozen vegetables in a pot with some beans and boiled it and ate that. So while you're abstaining, it doesn't
Right.
matter what you eat. Just eat some whole foods, and the wholer, the simpler, the better. The easy breezier
Right.
is what I found.
Right.
So it didn't have to be hard. People thought, oh, it's so hard. It's hard to lose weight. It's hard to not eat the standard American diet when everyone else is. But it doesn't have to be hard. You
Mhm.
just have to decide. And that's the first step, is the
Right.
decision. That's the only hard part. When you decide
Mhm.
that you're going to do this for whatever reasons you're going to do it, find some reasons. There's the big why. People, I've heard writers talk about, you have to have a big why,
Right.
why you're doing it, because you don't want to have open heart surgery, or because you don't want to die before your baby granddaughter gets old enough to get married, and you want to see her walk down the aisle and see her have a happy life, because you don't want to take insulin shots, because you don't want to be part of the problem for the
Right.
climate. So find the why and make that decision, and then that's the first step.
Yeah, so the why is so important because I've gone through addictions as well and
Hmm.
and overcome addictions, but
Great.
see, in my case it was cigarettes. I
Okay.
used to smoke, and my mother used to always get on my case. Every time she called me from India, she would say, "Did you quit?" And I would say, I'm trying, right?" And I put
Yeah.
patches on me. I chewed gum. I got hypnotized. I tried everything, but I couldn't do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the age of 60, my mother passed away in her sleep.
Wow.
Okay. So she just
That's
went
young.
to bed one day and didn't wake up the next morning. And that was the only thing she had ever asked me to do.
Wow.
So I quit instantly. So I had that why at that point. Why do I want to
Yeah.
do it? I wanted to do it because I was heartbroken that I didn't do it when she was alive, right?
Yeah.
And that point, nothing could stop me from quitting.
Wow.
It was because I was determined. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. There was no, yeah, I felt bad for a couple of days or 3 days, but I realized that, I need to just grit my teeth and get through it. And I did. And then about a month or 2 months later, I said, am I really off of it? So I took one drag of a cigarette and I just gagged.
Ah, I love that story. That is wonderful. Yeah.
That's it. I was out of it, right? And then I would say another month later, I felt like I was breathing for the first time ever.
That's great. Yes. Yes.
I mean, I didn't realize that breathing could be so delicious.
That's so funny. When we're in it, when we're in the addiction, we don't know what's
Right,
happening outside and what could be happening
right,
outside of it. We're just so enmeshed in it. We don't know.
right. So this is
Yeah.
why I use that story. I tell that story because right now our Mother Earth is telling us to quit eating animals.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
she's been telling us every time there's a fire. That's her telling us to quit eating animals, quit hurting her other children.
Yes.
That we can all live in harmony together. We can all be fine together. But if you continue eating animals, she's going to die. And if she dies this time, if her mother dies, there is no reprieve. You know,
Right. We all die.
we all die. So this is why I tell people, I want to make sure that this time we do it before our mother dies. I learned my lesson. I will never ever do that again. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So, but that's
Yeah.
the first step, the why. So there
Uh-huh.
is that big reason why our Mother Earth is telling us do it.
Yeah. And
You
it's
know,
letting your heart and your head be in charge. And before we're letting our taste buds be in charge. Why?
right?
Who put them in charge? That just doesn't make sense. Why should they determine whether we're healthy or not, whether the planet is healthy or not? Because especially when they've been hijacked.
Right.
It's not
It's
like they're in their right minds. They're like, "Mm, we want meat, we want cheese, we want it," and you're like, okay, well, that's what you want, but you're not in charge.
right.
My heart is in charge. I've decided my brain is in charge. I'm reorganizing the organizational chart in my
Right.
own
Yeah.
self. My taste buds are no longer in charge.
I mean, not only we need to take charge, we know that our taste buds have been hijacked by people who are playing us. They're
Right,
playing us
right.
to make
Yes,
money off our bodies.
yes, yes,
So,
yes. And like you said, the people with the least power are being played fastest and first, and that's black
right.
people. That's my people. I'm wearing my 10,000 Black vegan women sweatshirt to represent for Tracy McWhirter's program to
Right.
encourage Black women to go vegan, and as women go, then the whole world goes. So as
Right.
Black women go, Black people go. So I really am proud to be part of this solution for my people because we don't want to be played.
Oh,
And I know you have promoted the new film by the badass vegan
right.
John Lewis. They're trying to kill us, and they are. And
Right.
one of the things, I haven't seen the film yet. Have you seen it
Yeah, yeah,
yet?
yeah, yeah. I've seen.
I look forward to seeing it. I've heard him talk about it, and one of the stories he told from it, and I hope it made it into a film, was about a baby formula
Hmm.
company where the message given to poor women is that breast milk isn't always good enough. Sometimes you need this dairy based formula that Big Food has formulated for you. And
Mm.
how does that make sense? When did a corporation ever formulate something for us that was better than what God formulated for us? That is so crazy and so outrageously insincere. It just made me furious just to hear it. And that's just one example of how we're being
Mm.
played and we don't
Right.
like to be played. and
Yeah.
and when we continue to eat dairy and meat and processed crap, we are playing ourselves because
Yeah.
we do have the option to do something different, and that's what I'm hoping to communicate through my book, is that you have the option to do it differently. It's going to be a grind. that's
Right. Right.
that's from the one of those morning things where, or I think it was a commercial about peanuts or something. This peanut was going to be peanut butter. He's like, it's going to be a grind, but I'm gonna do it. So yeah, it is going to be a grind. It's not hard. It's not fun in the beginning. It is hard in
Right.
the beginning, but it's the short term hard, and then
Right.
after that it's easy breezy. And that's the message too. If I had thought I was going to have to white knuckle and struggle forever,
Right.
it would have been a whole different story. But the pleasure trap helped me understand. They have a lovely chart that shows how you start out in a normal pleasure zone, and
Right.
then the crappy foods put you in an exaggeratedly high pleasure zone. And then when you stop eating those foods, oh no, after a while you get back to normal from eating the
Right.
crappy foods. And you think that is normal, but your taste buds are hijacked. But then when you stop, you go down into this
Right.
low pleasure zone. And that's not pretty and that's not fun. But
Mm.
it's a short term, and within 12 weeks you're back up to normal, and
Right.
even better than normal. I feel so much better. And the people
I
I
know.
know just feel great. And you don't even realize how great you can feel
Right.
until you break the addiction. So you have to go through that down, but it doesn't last forever.
Right. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like, now food is so tasty,
Yeah.
In fact, food without salt is so tasty. I said, why was I putting salt
Right.
in
Right.
this?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's step one. Step one is
It's to
deciding,
decide. Yeah, to
deciding one.
learn and decide. Learn and studying all you can study, learning all you can learn, so you understand all the reasons why. There's so many reasons why
Right.
that are available to you. So
Yeah.
that's step 1. So the step 2 is to clear the crap and deal with the detox. Deal with that down thing. You clear out the crap so it's not in your kitchen. That's
Mm.
what I recommend. That's what so many doctors recommend. Get it out, because if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. And your Whole Foods cannot compete with it. So if you have a
Yeah.
refrigerator full of cheese and you're trying to eat steamed broccoli and potatoes, they're not going to be able to compete. The
Right.
cheese is going to win. If you love cheese and it's still in there staring at you, the broccoli and potatoes with no salt or oil cannot compete. So
Right.
your why has to be really strong, and it has to be less strong when it's not in there. It's not in your face.
Right.
So clearing that crap and dealing with the detox tox is the second step.
Okay.
And then the third step is to choose your starter staples and start. So
Mm.
decide what you're going to eat, and I recommend potatoes because they're non-allergenic for most people. I
Mm.
was recommending beans. I'm a big fan of beans, so I was
Mm.
eating a lot of beans, and then my father found that he couldn't eat too many beans. They were causing him problems with gout. So, and
With gout.
rice,
Okay.
gout,
Mm.
yeah. So, and I think all of the problems that Whole Foods might cause you are temporary,
Right.
because your body is messed up, your system is messed up from so many years of eating the standard American diet. And I
Right.
want to say my dad, who's 78 years old, he just turned 78 on the 4th of July,
Wow.
started the Whole Foods lifestyle in January of this year and has dropped 50 pounds. And I'm so proud of him and so excited about that for him. But he had trouble with beans and rice in the beginning, and
Mm.
so I told him potatoes. So
Right.
potatoes are a great starter staple.
Yeah.
So I recommend a really short shopping list for people really reasonably healthy people. Diabetics have issues that I don't know about. I'm not a doctor, and I also
Mm.
point out that I'm not a doctor.
Right.
Um, so my recommendations are for healthy people who have basic requirements. So the shopping list, the grocery list, that if you want to just start, if you want to just clear out all your crap, Eric Adams, who I'm going to say won the Democratic primary for New York City mayor. There's absentee ballots that haven't been counted yet, but he's also on a plant-based lifestyle. That
Right.
he reversed his own diabetes and his 80-year-old mother's diabetes. So he talks about when the clearing the crap process, he threw away 12 garbage bags full of crap out of his freezer.
Wow.
He had tray after tray of frozen pork chops and chicken wings and all kinds of crap in his kitchen. He and his girlfriend took out 12 garbage bags full and threw it in the trash.
Are they doing
So
it together? He and his
they're doing
girlfriend?
it together, yes.
Awesome.
And yeah, and I say when people do it together, it's very romantic. And it certainly makes it easier too when you have a partner in it. And when whole families do it together, which has happened, it's a powerful community shifting because
Exactly.
people see when the teenagers acne goes away and everybody drops weight and the mom's menopausal symptoms abate and the father reverses heart disease or cancer or whatever he's dealing with and the
Hmm.
baby brother's ADHD gets better and the grandparents' dementia starts clearing up and the whole family is showing these signs of health and people take notice and say, oh my goodness, well, I need to check this out.
Right.
So the grocery list when you choose your starter staples is really short. It's potatoes, vegetables fresh and or frozen. Frozen
Hmm.
vegetables make it very easy. Fruit, fresh and or frozen. I make smoothies with frozen fruit and that makes it so easy.
Right.
Beans, any kind, including lentils,
Hmm.
brown rice, and oatmeal. So that can be your whole shopping list, and you can build from there once your taste buds and your body begin healing. So it doesn't have to be a complicated thing. You don't have to go buy a whole lot of stuff you've never heard of and figure out
Right.
how to cook. And
Right. Right.
yeah, yeah. So that's the third step. And the fourth step is to find your farmers markets
Okay.
because farmers markets is where the fun is in this lifestyle I found. And I already knew that there was so much fun to be had at farmers. I loved farmers markets. I lived in North Carolina and I was on the board of directors of my farmers market. I loved it so much. And
Hmm.
every week there's different produce, the seasonal produce coming through. It's like a party with all kinds of different things coming out of the ground
Right.
from our mother,
Right.
the earth, to heal us and delight us. And it's even more delightful once you've started breaking that addiction to the crappy foods. And there's nothing like a fresh strawberry and strawberry season and
Right.
fresh watermelon in the summertime during watermelon season, which is
Right.
now happening. I'm very excited to say I'm going to
I
go out
know.
as soon as we finish. I'm going to go out and find some watermelon fresh out of a farm somewhere. So farmers markets are a great source of community. So it's
Hmm.
not just healthy plant foods, but also the community that grows around farmers markets is a really beautiful thing. When I
Right.
lived in Los Angeles, I had a choice of dozens of farmers markets every week. There was a farmers market somewhere in the metropolitan area every single day.
Hmm.
And that was really exciting to me. And I think that's something that can keep people feeling excited about this lifestyle. So,
It also brings local foods
right.
into your home, and
Yeah.
it's a way to sort of adapt with the time, right? So with the
Right.
season.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Align with Mother Nature,
Right.
really, in a beautiful, delicious way. So I really recommend farmers markets and finding them. And people don't even know. You know, a lot of people live in communities forever and they don't know what are those people doing over there at those white tents every Saturday. I don't. They just drive by on their way to Burger King. Don't pay attention. And when they stop and discover, oh, that's the farmers market. It's every week. It happens. There's people who gather there with
Right.
fresh, local, seasonal produce every week. Most cities, even tiny cities. I lived for a time in a little city called Defuniak Springs, Florida,
Mhm.
and they had a weekly farmers market. It was only 2 or 3 vendors, but it was beautiful. And they
Right.
had beautiful blueberries and okra and corn. I made friends with the okra lady. I got there like right after it sold out one day, and she's like, "Oh, it sold out. I just sold the last okra." So the next week, I was there 2 hours earlier. And she said, "Oh, I'm glad you're here." She said, "I didn't want you to miss it again." I was like, I didn't want to miss it again either. So you learn those kinds of things, and you make those kinds of
Right.
friends around farmers markets. So that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And step 5 is to savor the magic.
Mm.
So when you start eating whole foods, you start feeling great. You
Mhm.
start meeting other people who are living with you in this alternate reality that you didn't even know was happening.
Mhm.
And you start hearing their stories, and they're available on podcasts, and people are interviewing people like you. You can learn more about climate healing and about how animal agriculture is destroying the planet and how veganism can save it. And you
Mhm.
learn different people coming at that from different angles, and all of that is a savoring of this magic that's
Right.
possible and that is here, that people don't even realize is here because they're so hooked into sad, and they're so sad and they can't even
Right.
understand what magical things are possible for them and that are happening for other people. So that's a step I recommend, focusing on that. And
So, how long does it take to go from step 1 to step 5?
well,
I mean, typically,
you
how
know,
long did it take you to savor the magic?
well, I started doing that early on, and that
Mm.
helped go through the dealing with the detox. So they kind of overlap. So I
Mm.
was going to farmers markets in the beginning, and I was so they really kind of overlap. The last
Right.
one, the Find Your Fancy, after 12 weeks at the latest,
Mhm.
and even before then, you can get to step 7. You can get to step 7 very quickly if you're a chef and you know how to
Right.
cook. You can start out fancy, really. You don't have to eat plain potatoes like I do.
Right. Right.
Like
Right.
I still do, because it's time saving and
Right.
they taste delicious.
Right.
I can detect different flavors of potatoes now in ways that other people can't. So I got some potatoes at my farmer's market last Thursday, in fact, that I don't think they were organic, and they were not nearly as delicious as the potatoes I'd gotten the week before at Trader Joe's that had a
Right.
real sweetness to them. So I'm like a potato connoisseur now. I'm like, no, these potatoes aren't as good as those potatoes. And so depending on how developed your palate is and how skilled you are in
Mhm.
the kitchen, you can get fancy very early. But 12 weeks is the outside length. The addiction is
Right.
broken within 12 weeks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's for step 6 is
Step 6 is to find your groove, and
find your
that
groove.
can happen early, and that's when you decide how you're going to make it work for you. And
Right.
as a traveler, I was tour manager for my dad, so I'm on the road at times, and I will be back on the road. And I have been on the road even during the pandemic a couple of times. So finding my groove means having a little steamer. I have a little
Mm.
collapsible steamer that I can plug in hotels and steam potatoes. And potatoes
Right.
microwave very well too. I don't recommend microwaves, but you can microwave a potato very quickly. And so I can steam rice, steam vegetables, steam potatoes. I can carry those potatoes with me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of beans, you can get unsalted beans with the pull tab
Right.
cans. So
Right.
that's a way to find your groove if you want to move it. The one painter I heard interviewed, a house painter, who was a bachelor too, who didn't cook and didn't find himself fancy, would buy these cans of beans with the pull top and take them with him on the job for lunch
Right.
every day and just pull the top. So that's how he found his groove, was eating these cans of beans. And that
Right.
I do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, rice cakes, unsalted rice cakes, I find are crunchy and they make a
Mm-hmm.
great snack. And so I go to grocery stores. So finding out where you can get to grocery stores easily, where you can quickly feed yourself and quickly feed yourself even in the midst of all the sadness going on around
Right.
you.
Right.
Yeah. So if
Right.
other people are going to chain restaurants in the South, for example, where there's nothing, you can get plain lettuce and nothing else, and you won't be satisfied with that. You can eat a plain salad, but you will not be satisfied. You won't be fed. You need some kind of starch to feel satisfied.
Right.
So you often will need to provide it yourself because the restaurants generally do not have unadulterated starches. They have them frozen from food distributors, and they have I'd say they have oil and dairy and worse
Right.
already. So the
Right.
restaurant I went to, a what I thought was a fancy restaurant in Marina del Rey, and I could only get some broccolini. They steamed me some broccolini with nothing on it, but a potato, I could not find a potato. All their
Wow.
potatoes were pre-prepared. We were in a beautiful jazz club in Vienna, and I wanted a potato. I was like, well, can you give me a baked bean potato? No, we only have pre-prepared potato wedges that have oil and MSG and whatever, Lord knows what else on them. So I'm like, this is a fancy jazz club in a European capital.
Right.
And no unadulterated starches available. So you, to find your groove, you have to know what to do. So I there was a health food store right down the street, and I didn't do that night.
Oh, Joya dropped off in the middle. We'll see if she comes back. So that's step 6 is find your groove. And then step 7 is find your fancy. Oh, there you are.
Disappeared.
You just dropped
Yeah,
off.
I
Okay.
dropped off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that night I hadn't gone and pre-prepared myself some starch because I wouldn't have
Mhm.
dreamed that that fancy place wouldn't have had a plain potato that they could bake for
Right.
me, but they didn't. So most restaurants do not. So you need to know that to find your groove and be able to just roll with it, regardless of what's going on around you.
So do you make it strict that you don't cheat on this at all? I mean, it makes you feel bad, right? So when you eat something bad.
Well, the thing was in the beginning is that when you tease your taste buds, you're taking yourself backwards.
Hmm.
So you're not doing the abstention. The Pleasure Trap book recommends complete abstention. So
Mhm.
that's how you get completely unaddicted within 12 weeks. So
Right.
I recommend not cheating at all in the first 12 weeks until you are completely unaddicted. Now I just got into that habit, so I don't cheat.
Right.
I don't know if it makes me feel bad. I don't know what might happen.
Right.
Actually,
You just don't do it.
I just don't do it. I really,
Okay.
really don't do it. Oh, actually, one time I did do it. My sister had a birthday, and I got her a vegan carrot cake, and it was delicious. And it did send me kind of spiraling. It had. I said, so I was out talking to the baker, and I was like, so I guess you don't have any cake with any no oil. And she's like, no, we. It has canola oil, so it was a frosting. It looked like a regular cake, but it was full of oil
Hmm.
and sugar. And I ate it, and I ate more of it, and I ate more of it. I ate a lot of it because it was really delicious. And then I felt myself wanting more of the stuff that I hadn't even been thinking about and wanting
Hmm.
before. So I recognized how it kind of sent me on a spiral. So
Hmm.
that's why I don't do it. And
Okay.
Dr. Lyle and his colleague will recommend just not doing it, because
Right.
it
That's good.
teases your taste buds and it wakes them up, and it's like, oh yeah, hey, we remember this.
Right. It's
And
a little
they're
like
not.
alcoholism, right? So
Yes,
yeah.
very much like that. Yeah, you
Right.
wouldn't tell an alcoholic just take one drink or
Right.
just drink wine. So
Right.
yeah, I
Yeah.
just don't do it. And then the last step, after you found your groove and you know how to do it and navigate, and you can get through all the saddest situations you find yourself in easily, breezily, then you start finding your fancy, and you
Okay.
find what you can have, and what won't send you spiraling. For example, yesterday, Chef AJ had a Robert Cheek on her show, who
Mm.
recently written a book called The No Meat Athlete, and one of his recipes is for these sweet potato brownies. So
Mm.
there's no oil, there's coconut sugar, which I don't know how that's so different from regular sugar. But
Right. Right.
so I made some, and they were kind of fancy and they were delicious. They had a nice texture to them, and I put them in the freezer so that I'm not going to be tempted to eat them all at one time.
Right.
So then you start finding your fancy, and then you can get to the complicated recipes
Right.
that take more time in the kitchen, and um, or that you might want to share with your friends. I have a potato salad. I'm going to a little potluck in the park in a
Uh-huh.
couple of weeks, and I'm going to take my easy breezy potato salad, which is potatoes and zucchini and Vidalia onions and this delicious cream sauce, vegan mayonnaise I make with sunflower seeds.
Ah.
So you find some fancier recipes that you can share with people, and be prepared that sad people still may not like them. You might think they're delicious. My dad said he doesn't put any stock into what I say is delicious anymore. My taste buds are so different, and
Right.
my conception of what's delicious is so different, and it can change for everyone. For him too, I imagine it
Mm.
will too eventually. But um, that's something to remember, though. Your sad friends still may not love your food. So
Right.
don't
Right.
get your
Right.
feelings hurt. I used to be offended, but I'm like, why am I offended that you're offending God if you don't like the food God made
Right.
the way God
So
made it.
yeah, I mean, I found that I can pretty much recreate all the recipes I used to make, but
Hmm.
in a whole foods plant based, no oil, no salt way,
Great,
and it
great.
tastes pretty good after a while.
To you at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Salt is the hardest, right? So I mean, for
Yeah.
people to give up.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it's not really necessary. I find
right.
I don't push on that unless you're dying from high blood pressure. You might not even need to give up salt, but you might want to go to a higher quality salt. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
hmm,
Right.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This is
Thank
really
you.
informative, and I put the Easy Breezy Whole Foodie website on the chat,
Thank
so people
you.
know.
Thank you. Thank you.
And are
Yes.
you planning any kind of classes for people to attend, so you can do it as a group?
I like that idea. I haven't
Okay.
planned it, but now that you put that bug in my head, perhaps that could be fun. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that's something that develops. I found that like I said, so many people are not ready to hear this message, and I feel that I don't want to bang my head against the wall trying to make
Right.
people ready. But if people are ready and they really want it, then yeah, who am I to say no?
Right.
But I don't want to try to push this on people, because it's not something that goes over easily.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, but you could create like a family, online
Yeah.
family that's doing it
Yeah.
together, right?
That's true. And there are so many other families already out there too. So that's
Mm,
another thing I'd like to say. Chef AJ has a beautiful community of people doing it together. People,
wonderful.
yeah, that's just one of many. And your Climate Healers family is a beautiful growing one. Jane Unchained and
Right.
has a
Thank you.
community that's growing. Yeah, I love all of these.
We are all part of one big family.
Yes, yes, we are. Yes,
So we need to
yes,
collectively get out of this addiction so that
yes,
we can heal our mother and heal ourselves in the process, right?
yes,
So
yes, yes,
to me, it's like collectively we are going through a detox and a healing process.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, totally, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Joya, as
Thank
always.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Glad to be back again.
It's a
Now,
pleasure to speak with you. And
yes.
I hope you sell thousands and millions of these books, these little
Thank
books.
you. Thank you. I hope so too. I hope so too.
So if
Yeah.
you start selling millions, you may have to do something better than just put it in an envelope and lick it and send it
Okay.
to people.
Maybe. But I like that. I like to be able to put that personal energy on it too, since I
Right.
have been there literally. So I feel you, people who
Yeah.
buy the book, and I'm happy to personally write it and mail it. And so there's the energy in addition to the information
Right.
coming and the love coming from me to you
So you can only
together.
order the book on the website, right? Is there any other
Yeah,
way to order the book?
well, it's available on Amazon too. So
It is okay.
so yeah, so you can get to Amazon through the website, or you can go straight to Amazon. And it's on Kindle, so you can get it instantly and have all the information instantly on your
Wonderful.
device. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, you covered everything. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me and helping me promote it. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. My pleasure. It's my
All
my
right.
duty to do it. Thank you so much.
Okay. All right.